Welcome to Top 10's Gaming. This is the iceberg and timeline surrounding the GTA series. The GTA series is one of the most successful games of all time, so it's bound to influence plenty of games surrounding this genre of game. We are going to tell you everything you need to know about all the GTA games in the series and how they've changed the gaming world. Some of these games have lasted a long-lasting impact on us, and others not so much. Well, here's our GTA timeline, and we're going to be starting off with Grand Theft Auto the original. Grand Theft Auto was released on November 28, 1997. At the time, Grand Theft Auto was a pioneering game that helped introduce the concept of open-world design to action games, with its free-form, objective-based missions. The freedom it gave you to pursue missions and explore laid the groundwork for many of the series' hallmarks. The game is set in 1997 in three American cities: Liberty City, San Andreas, and Vice City. The player chooses the role of one of a group of 8 silent criminals, 4 males and 4 females, looking to work their way up the career ladder of the city's organized crime. The original Grand Theft Auto is made up of a series of levels, each set in one of 3 cities in the game. In each level, the player has a target number of points to achieve and 5 lines to attain the score. The score counter doubles as a money meter. The player can spend this money on paint jobs and various other things. However, any money spent is of course taken away from the score, making the goal that a little bit further away. Apart from that, the player is free to do whatever they want. The player can just explore the city, cause death and destruction, or steal and sell cars for profit. Although completing a level will almost certainly require the completion of missions. Even in missions, there is still some freedom, as usually the player is free to choose the route to take, although the destination is usually fixed. This level of freedom, mind you, wasn't commonly found in other games at this time, making the original GTA a staple in the gaming world. There were 5 weapons in GTA original: the fist, pistol, machine gun, rocket launcher, and flamethrower. In most cases, missions are started by answering telephones, although some missions are allocated on the spot or are triggered by entering certain vehicles. Once a phone is touched, the player is stuck doing that mission until they pass or fail it. But with the cars, it's different. The player is told, "I've got a new job for you if you want it. Otherwise, get the hell out of my car." Then they have a few seconds to jump out before that mission begins. Law enforcement in GTA is generally characterized as an obstacle in the game, appearing in the force of police officers who are ready to pursue, arrest, and kill the player if they have committed sufficient criminal acts. The player's wanted level is defined by the number of police heads seen at the top of the screen. The more crime the player commits, the more determined the police will be to subdue them. The player can have up to 4 police heads, which at this point leads to very hostile officers. Despite its age, GTA even included a multiplayer function, which allowed players to battle with human opponents. This was possible over either a LAN connection or using a null modem cable. The PlayStation actually had a port of this game, and it's a very accurate recreation of the original DOS game. Grand Theft Auto went to sell over 1 million copies in 1998 and 3 million copies in its lifespan, and despite the mediocre reception, it was considered to be a commercial success. In a follow-up to the success of the original game, October 22nd, 1999, GTA 2 was released. GTA 2 was released for PC and PlayStation. A version for the Dreamcast console was made available, which included PC features omitted from the PlayStation version, and later, a toned-down version for the Game Boy Color. A lot of people call this game GTA 1, but a little bit better. GTA 2 takes place in a large metropolis, only vaguely referred to as Anywhere City. The city is heavily stylized in a retro-futuristic design, displaying a contrast between a vivid color palette and advanced science fiction weapons and post-war architecture and transportation. All civilian vehicles are retro-modified versions of popular cars and trucks, built up to the 1960s. Anywhere City is divided into 3 sectors: downtown, residential, and industrial. In each of them are 3 gangs, whose bosses give the player missions via payphones, just like the previous game. Each district also has a maximum wanted level that the player can acquire, likely to make later levels more difficult. There are 3 levels of mission difficulty: easy, taken from green payphones; medium, from yellow payphones, which pay better but require the player to have some respect; and hard, from red payphones, which pay very well but usually are hard and require maximum respect. For completing a mission, the player earns money, respect, and a money multiplier. Sometimes during a mission, the player is also given access to new parts of town, vehicles, or weapons. I personally feel like GTA 2 skimped on the budget, as this is the only Grand Theft Auto game that doesn't feature cutscenes. Also, by not actually naming cities in this game, I feel like it was kind of a lackluster thing for the developers of the game to do. There are 7 gangs in the game: the Zaibatsu, the Loonies, the Yazuka, SRS Scientists, Rednecks, Russian Mafia, and Hare Krishna. This is a pretty cool feature in GTA 2. Each area features 5 radio stations from a pool of 11, which the player listens while driving a vehicle. But you can only listen to certain radio stations in a limited area. All radio stations only play music, unlike future games, which feature a talk radio station as well as music stations. But here's to name a few: Head Radio, Rockstar Radio, K-Rez, Lo-Fi FM, Futuro FM, Funami FM, Lithium FM, Rebel Radio /King, Osmosis Radio, Heavenly Radio, and KGBH. GTA 2 was the last PC GTA with built-in multiplayer until Grand Theft Auto 4 and subsequent titles. It supported up to 6 players and connections via internet, LAN, serial cable, or direct modem connection. There are also 3 small multiplayer maps designed for a smaller number of players, as well as 3 districts with modified locations of weapons and parked cars. Grand Theft Auto 2 sold over 2 million copies in its lifespan and was labeled as one of PS1's greatest hits. Speaking of greatest hits, next up in our GTA timeline, we have Grand Theft Auto 3. When it launched in fall of 2001, Grand Theft Auto 3 single-handedly redefined an entire industry. Rockstar North's tabloid-bothering crime epic wasn't just a blockbuster game that sold millions of copies, it also invented a language for open-world games that echoes through even the most recent examples of the genre. Players complete missions, linear scenarios with set objectives to progress through the story. It is possible to have several missions available at a time, as some missions require players to wait for further instructions or events. Outside of missions, players can freely roam the game's open world and have the ability to complete optional side missions. Liberty City is composed of 3 boroughs: Portland, Staunton, Island, and Shoreside Vale. Players use melee attacks, firearms, and explosives to fight enemies. The firearms include weapons such as the Micro Uzi, an M16 rifle, and a flamethrower. The game's 3-dimensional environment allows a first-person view while aiming with the sniper rifle, rocket launcher, and the M16 rifle. In addition, the game's combat was reworked to allow players to commit drive-by shootings by facing sideways in the vehicle. Small-time criminal Claude is betrayed and shot by his girlfriend, Catalina, during a bank heist outside Liberty City. Claude is arrested but escapes during his transfer to prison when members of the Colombian cartel ambush his transport to abduct another prisoner. During his escape, Claude befriends explosive expert and fellow convict 8-Ball, who shelters Claude and introduces him to the Leone Mafia family for work. GTA 3 is the first 3D game in the series using Criterion Games' Renderware game engine. When designing this game, the development team had openness in mind. They wanted to recreate the freedom and diversity of the previous games in a living, breathing 3D world, and using the PlayStation 2's power to do so. What brought this game to life was the PlayStation 2's ability to use DVDs, an improvement over the PlayStation's limit to CDs, and it allowed the team to store more data, such as animations, music, and environments. Honestly, this game was just ahead of its time, basically using the complete power of the PlayStation 2. I mean, there was games that came closer to using the max power of the PlayStation 2, but just not in a way that Rockstar Games was able to do it with GTA 3. GTA 3 was released to critical acclaim. Metacritic calculated an average score of 97 out of 100. GTA 3 marched to 14.5 million copies and paved its way to many other games on this list. And in 2002, Rockstar Games gave us Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which was like Grand Theft Auto 3 but with a more colorful and vibrant atmosphere. Looking for a reason that Grand Theft Auto Vice City is still popular to this day? The primary reason was a combination of revolutionary gameplay, iconic soundtrack, and a deeply engaging plot. The title also benefited from a great cast of characters that is still memorable today. In this game, the player controls criminal Tommy Vercetti and completes missions, linear scenarios with set objectives to progress through the story. It is possible to have several missions available at a time, just like GTA 3, as some missions require the player to wait for further instructions or events. Outside of missions, the players can freely roam the game's open world and has the ability to complete optional side missions. Composed of 2 main islands and several smaller areas, the world is much larger in area than earlier entries in the series. The islands are unlocked for the player as the story progresses. The player may run, jump, or drive vehicles to navigate the game's world. The player uses melee attacks, firearms, and explosives to fight enemies. The firearms include weapons such as the Colt Python, an M60 machine gun, and a minigun. The game's 3-dimension environment allows a first-person view while aiming with the sniper rifle and rocket launcher. In addition, the game's combat allows the player to commit drive-by shootings by facing sideways in a vehicle. A wide variety of weapon options can be purchased from local firearms dealers found on the ground, retrieved from dead enemies, or found around the city. In 1986, mobster Tommy Vercetti is released from prison after serving a 15-year sentence for murder. His boss, Sonny Ferrelli, seeking to establish a drug operations in the South, sends Tommy to Vice City to oversee an important drug deal alongside crooked lawyer Ken Rosenberg. However, the deal is ambushed by unknown assailants, with Tommy and Ken barely escaping. Angry upon hearing the news, Sonny orders Tommy to recover the drugs, alongside the money Sonny gave to him. Under the threat of consequences, seeking information, Ken points Tommy towards retired Army Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez, who helps set up the exchange. Expressing regret for the ambush, Cortez promises to find out who masterminded it. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was released to critical acclaim. Metacritic calculated an average score of 95 out of 100, indicated universal acclaim based on 62 reviews. It is the highest rated game of 2002 and the 5th highest rated PlayStation 2 game overall. Grand Theft Auto Vice City stormed to 17.5 million copies. In 2004, Rockstar Games decided to experiment with other consoles, releasing Grand Theft Auto Advance. Now, Rockstar Games, I feel, tried to pay homage to their Grand Theft Auto 1 and Grand Theft Auto 2, but us gamers, I think we found that there was a time and place for these types of games, and since the way that the games progressed over time, this game just seemed out of place. I mean, is there anyone out there that says they needed Grand Theft Auto Advance? I don't know. The game is set in 2000 within Liberty City, the same setting used in Grand Theft Auto 3. As the setting had to be recreated for Game Boy Advance, much of it was noticeably changed in its conversion, including elements that were impossible to interpret from the game's top-view perspective. As a result of these changes, players familiar with the original settings have to explore it afresh in Grand Theft Auto Advance. Small-time criminal Mike works for the more connected criminal Vinny in hopes of leaving Liberty City with him and retiring from their life of crime. Vinny convinces Mike to do the work for the Mafia to achieve this goal. However, after several jobs, Vinny is seemingly killed in a car bomb explosion, which also destroys all their money. Mike vows revenge and quickly falls out with the Mafia as he investigates Vinny's murder. As a surprise to no one, Grand Theft Auto Advance received mixed or average reviews. Grand Theft Auto Advance reportedly has sold less than 250,000 copies, making it one of the worst-selling Grand Theft Auto games in the series. However, since it only sold 250,000 copies, if you have a copy of Grand Theft Auto Advance, make sure to hold it because the copy might be worth something someday. Moving on to 2005, where Rockstar Games released Liberty City Stories. GTA Liberty City Stories is the first 3D title of the series to be released to handheld devices, and acts as a prequel to 2001's Grand Theft Auto 3, using the same setting of Liberty City. The single-player story set in 1998 follows mobster Tony Soprani, a character first introduced in Grand Theft Auto 3, and his efforts to rise through the ranks of the Leone crime family. Unfortunately, in this one, flyable airplanes cannot be found in Liberty City Stories, while helicopters are only accessible through certain exploits. In 1998, Leone mobster Antonio Soprani, forced to live abroad for 4 years following his murder of a maidman, returns home to Liberty City. His boss, Don Salvatore Leone, welcomes him back and assigns him to work under another Leone mobster, Vincenzo Cilli, who despises Tony. During his work for Vincenzo, Tony meets J.D. Toole, a member of the rival Sindaco family, looking to switch allegiances, and begins working with him to take down the Sindacos. Later, Vincenzo tries to set up Tony to be arrested during the job, but later escapes and cut ties with Vincenzo as a result. Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories received generally favorable reviews on both platforms from critics. On PS2 they received a 78 out of 100, and on PSP they received a whopping 88 out of 100 score. Liberty City Stories also sold 8 million copies during its lifespan. In 2005, along with Liberty Stories, Rockstar Games released Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories alongside the game. Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories marks the series' return to Vice City, with the game taking place in 1984, roughly 2 years before the events of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The game focuses around Victor Lance, the brother of Lance Vance, both characters who have previously appeared in the Grand Theft Auto Vice City. In 1984, Victor Vance, the protagonist, is a U.S. Army corporal stationed at Fort Baxter. Desperate to raise money for his brother's asthma medication, Vic works as a reluctant middleman for his corrupt sergeant, Jerry Martinez, who is involved in a secret drug trafficking business. However, a drug deal meeting becomes botched when hitmen arrive and shoot a yacht. Vic escapes with the drug package and hides it in his barracks under Martinez's orders. With the drugs being strictly against his morals, Vic confronts him on the matter, but is rebuffed by Martinez, who asks him to pick up his girlfriend, a prostitute named Mary. Out of reluctance, Vic agrees to the task, finding her on Starfish Island. However, because of the earlier botched drug deal, Martinez decides to frame Vic for the contraband and Mary. Sergeant Peppa, having received the false report, orders Vic to be dishonorably discharged. Rockstar lead studio director Gordon Hall explained, "One of the biggest technical achievements in GTA Vice City Stories has been the enormous effort involved in making Vice City this incredibly vibrant, detailed, and alive place. The detail seen in the city has been ramped up massively over Liberty City Stories. We now have double the number of polygons in a city block, with new features such as animated textures and neon light effects, and an all-new radioacity lighting model." Another area that they concentrated on in this game is the water surrounding the landscape. Vice City itself is surrounded by a whole lot of water, so we've gone to town here. We've enhanced the water and boat physics, programming an improved buoyancy model, which really becomes apparent if you mess around with the new jet ski. Like the game's predecessor, Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories features a multiplayer mode that can be played via Wi-Fi. 10 different modes of play are offered, and these multiplayer games will incorporate use of automobiles, aircraft, and water-based vehicles. The weapons in Vice City stories are set to fit the time the game is set at. For instance, the Tech 9 is replaced with the Scorpion, and the rocket launcher has the look of an M72 Law. The M4 is switched to the look of an M16, as there were no M4s during 1984. This game has also won 2 awards. In 2006, they won IGN's History of Awesome, and in 2007, they won the Golden Joystick Award for the Best Handheld Game. Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories sold a whopping 4.5 million copies. In 2008, we got one of the best games of all time from Rockstar Games, Grand Theft Auto 4. Considered one of the most significant titles of the 7th generation of video games, and by many critics as one of the greatest video games of all time, it won year-end accolades including Game of the Year awards from several gaming publications. It is among the best-selling video games with over 25 million copies sold by 2013. Surprisingly, development of Grand Theft Auto 4 began soon after the release of San Andreas and was shared between many of Rockstar studios worldwide. This was the first game in the series to implement a cover system that allowed players to move between cover. The online multiplayer mode for Grand Theft Auto 4 allows up to 32 players to freely roam across the map. Players decide which game mode they wish to play, including death matches and street races. Both cooperative and competitive game modes are available, split into ranked and unranked matches. Grand Theft Auto 4 takes place in 2008 within a redesigned version of Liberty City. The design of the city focuses on a recreation of the 4 boroughs of New York City. Niko Bellic, an Eastern European ex-soldier, arrives in Liberty City aboard a cargo ship, the Platypus, to escape his criminal past, pursue the American dream, and search for a man who betrayed his unit to an ambush during a war 10 years prior. Reuniting with his cousin Roman, he discovers that his tales of riches were lies, concealing his small, dirty apartment, unprofitable taxi company, gambling debts, and disputes with loan sharks. Niko begins assisting Roman with his problems, which leads him to make his first criminal contacts in the city. He befriends Yardes, second in command Little Jacob, and is forced to work for Vlad Glebov, Roman's Russian loan shark, whom Niko eventually kills upon learning he had slept with Roman's girlfriend Mallory. Fun fact, preliminary work on Grand Theft Auto 4 began in November 2004, a month after the release of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Grand Theft Auto 4 sees a shift in the series to a more realistic and detailed style and tone, partly a result of the transition to consoles which offer high-definition graphics and the new and improved capability of such consoles. According to Metacritic, it is still the second highest rated game on the site, at a score of 98 out of 100. GTA 4 managed to sell 28 million copies since 2008 and has made $2 billion. 1 year after the release of GTA 4, we got Grand Theft Auto Episodes from Liberty City, which was basically an add-on for Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto Episodes from Liberty City includes 2 games set in the world of Liberty City, The Lost and the Damned and The Ballad of Gay Tony. These standalone expansions offer new single-player campaigns, multiplayer modes, music tracks, radio stations, vehicles, weapons, and online modes. A lot of people agree The Ballad of Gay Tony is probably the better of the 2, but they both fill in an incredible amount of GTA 4's storyline. Unlike typical DLCs, episodes from Liberty City can be played without owning the original GTA 4 game. This made it accessible to a broader audience. Without question, The Lost and the Damned, a $20 Xbox 360 exclusive, is the meatiest DLC to date. Not only do you get a significant single-player campaign, but Lost and Damned includes 54 new music tracks, 20 new vehicles, a half dozen new weapons, new side missions, new TV shows, and new multiplayer modes. In Gay Tony, you play as Luis Lopez, bodyguard and business associate of the title character Gay Tony. Gay Tony owns the hottest straight nightclub and hottest gay nightclub in the city, but Tony's gotten himself into a bit of trouble, as in a common theme of Liberty City. Lost in the Damned You play as Johnny Klebitz, vice president of the biker gang named The Lost. Johnny's been the de facto leader while the president of The Lost, Billy, has been in rehab. The story begins with Billy's release and resumption of his duties as head of gang. The Lost and Damned sales are currently $20 million. The Ballad of Gay Tony sold around 2.175 million copies. Now, I'm not going to take the time to convert that into a dollar figure, but I assume at $20 a piece it's around 40 million, but it probably only made about 20 million. In 2009, Rockstar released maybe their weirdest game, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. As much as I say that this is kind of a weird entry due to what they've released prior to this, I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. In fact, a lot of the Reddit community agrees on that this is one of the more underrated games in the Grand Theft Auto series. It was released on Nintendo DS, Sony PSP, and Apple iOS. Huang Lee, the spoiled son of a recently murdered triad boss, arrives by plane in Liberty City, bringing Yuzhan with him, a sword that Huang's father won in a poker game, intending to be used as a heirloom, to deliver it to a new patriarch of the family, Huang's uncle, Wu Kenny Lee. Shortly after landing, Huang's escorts are killed by assassins, and he is shot. A bullet grazes the side of his head, but he survives, and kidnapped. The assailants steal the sword and, thinking Huang's dead, dump his body in the water. Huang manages to survive and informs Kenny that Yuzhan has been taken. Kenny explains that he had intended to offer the sword to Hizan Jiaoming, the aging triad boss in Liberty City, as a means of securing his position as his replacement. Kenny has been dishonored and reduced in power due to the loss of Yuzhan, leaving him and Huang working to keep their business afloat. Chinatown Wars has a different presentation than any previous game in the GTA series. Instead of a third-person ground-level view behind the protagonist, or a top-down perspective, Chinatown Wars uses a fully rotatable aerial camera angled down on the action. This angle allows the camera to rotate dynamically during action sequences, and is only featured in this game out of the entire GTA series. Chinatown Wars also reintroduces over-the-top gameplay, like in 3D universe games such as GTA San Andreas and GTA Vice City, and to a lesser extent, The Ballad of Gay Tony. The player can once again obtain and use weapons such as the minigun, flamethrower, and chainsaw. The game also reintroduces vehicles such as the Rhino, Bulldozer, and the Speeder. Emergency side missions such as Firefighter and Paramedic, as well as taxi driving, also return. There has been some controversy over a drug dealing minigame, along with comments that some Nintendo games are being aimed at children. The drug dealing minigame allows you to peddle 6 types of drugs around the city, but the profit you make depends on market conditions, which will be based on the area in which you deal, and the amount of service this area receives from you regularly. The closest number I have for sales for this game is 163,000. And of course, in 2013, Rockstar Games releases Grand Theft Auto 5. Shared between many of Rockstar's studios worldwide, the game's development began around the time of Grand Theft Auto 4's release. The developers drew influence from many of their previous projects, such as Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne 3, and designed the game around 3 lead protagonists to innovate on the core structure of its predecessors. Much of the development work constituted the open world's creation, and several team members conducted field research around California to capture footage for the design team. The game's soundtrack features an audio score composed by a team of producers who collaborated over several years. In the single-player mode, players control 3 characters: Michael D. Santa, Trevor Phillips, and Franklin Clinton, criminals whose stories interconnect as they complete missions. Some missions are completed with only 1 character, and others feature 2 or 3. Outside the missions, players may switch between characters at will by a directional compass on the hood. In 2004, criminals Michael Townley, Trevor Phillips, and Brad Snyder partake in a failed robbery in Lundriff, North Yankton, resulting in Michael being presumed dead. 9 years later, Michael lives with his family in the city of Los Santos under the alias Michael D. Santa, having made a secret agreement with a Federal Investigation Bureau agent, Dave Norton, to stay hidden. Across town, gangbanger Franklin works for a corrupt car salesman and meets Michael while attempting to fraudulently repossess his son's car. The two later become friends when Michael finds his wife sleeping with her tennis coach. He and Franklin chase the coach to a mansion, which Michael heavily damages in anger. The owner of the mansion, drug lord Martin Majarzo, demands compensation. Michael returns to a life of crime to obtain the money and enlists Franklin as an accomplice. With the help of Michael's old friend Lester Crest, a disabled hacker, they rob a jewelry store to pay off the debt. Meanwhile, Trevor, who lives in the squalor of Roebling County, hears of the heist and realizes it was Michael's work. Trevor had believed the FIB killed Michael in Ludendorff heist. Trevor finds Michael and reunites with him, forcing the latter to reluctantly accept the former back into his life. The GTA 5's development team totaled more than 1,000 people. Also, I don't know of anybody that hasn't played Grand Theft Auto Online in my friend group. Have you? Rockstar has released a ton of post-release content into the online scene, but has never updated the original story of GTA 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 received universal acclaim from critics, and according to Metacritic, they gave GTA 5 a 97 out of 100. And you can't even count on your hands the number of awards Grand Theft Auto 5 received. GTA 5 was the literal culmination of all the other previous games and incorporated the mechanics of all of them into one singular game. GTA 5, within 24 hours of its release, it generated more than $815 million in revenue. As of Q4 2023, the game has made over $8.5 billion, with more than 80% of that coming from GTA Online alone. And in 2025, Rockstar Games will release GTA 6, hopefully being a good addition to the franchise. Now this is all speculation, but GTA 6 is the next installment of the popular Grand Theft Auto series by Rockstar Games. The game may feature a female protagonist, a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde story, and a map based in Vice City. The game is likely to be released in late 2024 or 2025, according to Rockstar's parent company Take-Two. Singer-songwriter T-Pain will seemingly appear in GTA 6 as well. On September 18, 2022, Grand Theft Auto 6 was the subject of what may be the most significant video game leak of all time. A hacker gained access to Rockstar's network and stole dozens of assets before uploading 90 GTA 6 videos online. The in-development footage, which was verified by Rockstar, showed off parts of the game world, gunplay, and NPCs. It also seemingly confirmed GTA 6 will feature one male and one female protagonist. Now I could go on and on all day about all these speculations, but the truth is, we really don't know what GTA 6 is going to bring to the table. Now, what I can pretty much confirm is that everything previous to this, they're going to bring back in some way or form. Because games have gotten so big since then that it's apparent that from GTA 5 even to now, the game engines have improved and everything surrounding making video games have improved. So, I hope you guys liked the video. This took me about 20-ish hours to make, so it took me a long time to make this, so make sure to subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye for now.